A strange thing happened in America over the last few decades. People got richer, and yet millions of them started feeling poorer. Salaries increased. Homes became larger. Phones became more powerful. Streaming services delivered endless entertainment. Food arrived at the front door in under 30 minutes. But behind the scenes, household debt quietly exploded, and one particular number became almost impossible to ignore. Credit card balances crossed $1 trillion. Think about that for a second. $1 trillion is not a budgeting problem. It's not a few people making bad choices. It's a financial system operating exactly as designed. The uncomfortable truth is that credit cards usually don't keep people broke because of one reckless shopping spree. They keep people broke because they change how spending feels. Imagine two people buying the exact same $200 jacket. The first hands over 10 crisp $20 bills. The second taps a plastic card against a terminal. The transaction is economically identical. Psychologically, it isn't even close. Researchers have repeatedly found that people tend to spend more when paying with credit than with cash. Not because they're irresponsible, because the brain experiences the payment differently. Cash creates a small moment of pain. You see the money leave your hand. Credit creates almost no pain at all. You get the reward immediately. The cost arrives later. And later is one of the most dangerous words in finance. Think about the last time you used a credit card. You probably didn't think, I'm borrowing money at a 20% interest rate. You thought, I'll pay it off next month. That sentence has financed an enormous portion of the modern consumer economy. The system works because it turns borrowing into a temporary illusion. At first, the illusion feels harmless. You buy dinner, a few groceries, maybe a flight, maybe a new phone. The balance grows, but it still looks manageable. Then the statement arrives, and that's where the real mechanism appears. The minimum payment. Suppose your balance is $5,000. The card asks for $125 this month. That seems reasonable. In fact, it seems surprisingly reasonable. Only $125 to keep using the card. Only $125 to avoid financial stress today. But here's the part almost nobody calculates. If that balance carries an interest rate of 24%, and you make only the minimum payment, the debt can last for many years. You may end up paying thousands of dollars in interest on a purchase you stopped enjoying long ago. The jacket wears out. The vacation ends. The restaurant meal is forgotten. The debt remains. This is why credit card companies don't actually need you to default. Default is messy. What they prefer is something much more profitable. A customer who pays every month, but never quite reaches zero. In the industry, these customers are sometimes called revolvers. They revolve a balance month after month, year after year, and they generate the majority of credit card interest revenue. The irony is almost absurd. The people paying the most interest are often the people trying hardest to stay financially afloat. Now let's zoom out. Why has this become such a massive issue right now? Because the economics changed. For years, low interest rates made borrowing feel relatively cheap. Then inflation arrived. Central banks raised rates aggressively. Credit card interest rates climbed to levels that would have seemed shocking a decade ago. Many cards now charge 20 to 30% APR. To understand how extreme that is, compare it to investing. If someone offered you a guaranteed investment earning 25% annually, it would sound extraordinary. Yet millions of people are effectively paying that rate on everyday purchases. And unlike an investment, the balance often grows while you're trying to reduce it. This creates a financial treadmill. You make a payment. Interest is added. You spend a little more. The balance barely moves. A month later, you're almost exactly where you started. Over time, something even more damaging happens. Cash flow gets trapped. Imagine earning $4,000 a month. A few $100s go toward old credit card balances. Another few hundred toward interest. That money is no longer available for investing, emergency savings, retirement contributions, or simply reducing financial stress. Credit card debt doesn't just cost interest. It steals future options. And this is where the marketing becomes almost darkly clever. Every advertisement emphasizes rewards. Cashback, travel points, airport lounges, free nights, exclusive offers. The message is clear. Smart people use credit cards. In a narrow sense, that's true. Someone who spends only what they already have and pays the full balance every month can benefit from rewards. But notice the assumption hidden in that sentence. They must already have the money. The problem is that many people use rewards to justify spending they wouldn't have made otherwise. A 2% cashback card feels rewarding until you carry a balance at 24%. Then the math becomes almost comical. You earn $4 in rewards on a $200 purchase, but you may pay far more than that in interest if the balance isn't cleared immediately. The reward is real. The interest is simply much larger. Credit cards also exploit another human tendency: mental accounting. People often separate purchases into categories. That dinner was only $40. That subscription is only $15. That impulse purchase was only $25. Individually, each decision seems harmless. Collectively, they can become a balance that requires years to unwind. The card acts like a financial fog machine. It hides the total cost behind dozens of small, emotionally disconnected transactions. And because statements arrive weeks later, the spending feels strangely unreal. There's another reason this matters now more than ever. Wages have risen in many industries, but housing, healthcare, insurance, and education have risen much faster over long periods. For some households, credit cards have become less of a luxury and more of a pressure valve. The car repair goes on the card. The medical bill goes on the card. The groceries go on the card. At that point, the debt is no longer funding consumption. It's funding survival. And that's the moment when high-interest borrowing becomes especially dangerous, because emergencies rarely disappear after 1 month. So what is the real reason credit cards keep people broke? It's not that people don't understand interest. Most do. It's not that everyone is irresponsible. They're not. The real reason is that credit cards separate the pleasure of spending from the pain of paying. They make borrowing feel invisible. They make minimum payments feel affordable. They make debt feel temporary. And they allow a balance to survive long enough for interest to quietly become the dominant expense. In other words, the trap isn't the card itself. It's the time delay between the purchase and the consequence. By the time the consequence becomes obvious, the money has already been spent, the interest has already started accumulating, and the balance has often become part of the monthly budget. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If an entire industry earns billions from customers who are trying to get out of debt, but never quite succeed, are credit cards failing to make people wealthy, or are they succeeding at keeping them permanently one payment away from being broke?